A motion was made by Mr. Hayes and second by Mr. Smith to accept the report.
It is moved on behalf of the committee.
Yeah.
Second.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
Move on behalf of the committee that we accept Mr. Foster's recommendations.
Coming out of committee, no second is needed. Any discussion or questions? Mr. Hardy?
Yes, Mr. Brookhouse, has anything been done to look at this that was brought forth by a parent about what the parent considered excessive fees for?
Not since a committee meeting, Mr. Hardy. I mean, we will steadily look at it in anticipation of next year. I know you guys expressed some interest in us doing something next year. But the fees have mostly been collected for this year.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, because I did hear from another parent too, and I was just surprised at the cost of joining the girls' organization, like $1,600. So I wish we would look at it quickly.
And I don't want to create the misconception. Extracurricular activities are probably not going to be on the radar initially. Those are voluntary events in most cases. So what we were basically talking about were school fees. Extracurricular, while they were listed, they're all over the place, depending on which school you attend and which organization you're a member of. So,
All right, thank you.
yes, sir.
Any other discussion or question? Mr. Delacroix?
I wasn't here, and along with Mr. Hardy, I mean, I know these things are the extracurricular activities, but at what point do we price kids out of being able to participate in a sport, or a cheerleader, or football, or baseball? When you have baseball that mandates that you have to come up with $3,000 or $5,000 to play. I mean, what average family can come up with that? And I don't know from our standpoint, but we have to look at that. And I know it's something that maybe it's not popular out there, but I just can't see pricing kids out of being able to participate in something. So I think this board should have some play in looking at formulating a policy that we have to look at the way it impacts our kids.
And those are listed, as I said, Mr. Delacroix, so we certainly can add those to the list when we're looking for next year.
Because some wasn't listed, and I know some schools just say we're just going to fundraise and whatever you can make.
Right.
So maybe we can get a better idea of what exactly these schools are charging these kids, even if it is a fundraiser. What is the cost that you require to fundraise in order to participate? Okay, sure. Thank you.
Any other discussion or question? Chair made a motion. Billy?
A lot of these things with the extracurricular activities, I understand that the cost involved. I had 3 kids that went through it myself, and it does get expensive. But a lot of that stuff on extracurricular activities are things that the students want to participate in. So the cost is directly related to all of the events that are tied into that, whether they're going to be traveling to some camp or whatever the case may be. A lot of these things that they get in there, they want new uniforms. Well, uniforms, I've written checks for team uniforms, and that gets expensive. There's multiple ways to fund this, a lot of stuff, and I get that. I mean, because being a business owner, you get hammered every week about writing, checks over and over and over for that kind of stuff. But just remember, guys, a lot of that stuff on extracurricular activities is driven by what the students themselves want to do and some of the parents that are in that. So it's not just, we're going to charge you $1,500 to be a cheerleader. Well, there's, every year they're wanting new uniforms, they're wanting to travel to go to this competition, that competition, and all of that's in there. There's multiple funding ways to do that, like being a business owner. But just kind of remember, it's not just they're charging them to do that. It's to cover the costs in there, which is not a whole lot different than what we do for driver's ed. They're not making money at all. They know what the cost is going to be, and that's why they're coming up that mountain. And again, it's an extracurricular activity, but it does get a little high. But that's something that they can address on an individual school basis. I don't think that needs to be at the board level as far as for curricular activities. As far as for school fees, a lot of that has to do with a lot of the fees that you're seeing charged have to do with schools that are not titled. A lot of these schools that are titled schools, they can pretty much control the money for whatever they want to do. So that's a different comparison there.
Okay, we're still on the first round. Anybody else who has not spoken previously on this motion? Second round, Mr. Hardy.
Mr. Brookhouse, some of these fees come under the idea of free and appropriate education, and those activities are educational activities, and so we might need to look at that a little closer, because what I see are these people who are like soccer moms, and they like to place their daughters at the front of something, and by the time they get through, they're so enthusiastic about showcasing their child, the fee is way up there, and a lot of other kids can't participate. It might be something that we need to look at.
Any other discussion or questions? All in favor of the motion,
I have
say.
a question.
Yeah.
Initially, at the committee meeting, we were talking about the fees that were assessed for labs and the supplies that the students were responsible for. Now have we changed from that since we had this little brief discussion about extracurricular activities? Are they going to be lumped together? Because Mr. Brookhouse had stated that they were definitely going to look into the fees, like Mr. Guidry said at the committee meeting, locker fees, things that are already housed in the schools, and every child that comes to the school has to pay a fee to use the locker that taxpayer funds have already paid for. I thought those were the things we were talking about. I didn't think we had moved on to cheerleader. I don't know what the band has to pay. It's been so long since I had someone in school that I don't know what they have other than cheerleaders and dance lines and that kind of thing, which are things that the students actually choose to participate in.
So you're asking Mr. Brookhouse?
Yeah, I'm asking Mr.
Clarify.
Brookhouse, are we staying with the discussion from the committee meeting, which was Kleenex, hand sanitizers, all of these things that parents were being asked to bring in? I remember Mr. Stratton, he talked about something that his granddaughter could participate in, but I thought we were geared primarily with those mandatory things. Are we now going to do extracurricular stuff with this, or what?
I'll bring you back probably in the spring in time to, if you want to make changes for next year before we release all the list and everything.
Okay.
I'll probably bring you back a synopsis of all of it, and
Okay.
you can pick and choose what you would like to address or not address.
Okay, because I think it was stated on this end that each school has a different fee for these extra things. Where it's running $1,600 at one school, it might be running $900
Yeah, that's
at
true.
another.
That's
So that's going to require a lot more research on your part, I guess. And then once you start adding in extra things like competitions and that kind of stuff, it could go over. So I'll just wait until the spring when you bring the information with the breakdown on all of these things.
Okay, Mr. Stark?
Oh, now since we're having some discussion, I figured let me put in my 2 cents. We're talking about. First of all, let me clarify. What we're voting on here is we're not voting to do anything. We're voting to accept Mr. Foster's report about the fees.
Correct.
But the discussion, since we're all talking, I'm just going to put my 2 cents in about the way the discussion went. There's really 3 things. There's school supplies, which is they have to bring with them school supplies, binders, all kinds of Kleenex, all kinds of school supplies. Then there's registration fees that we're charging every kid to come to school. If they're going to come to school, they have to pay a registration fee, a locker fee, parking fee in some cases. That's thing number 2. And then thing number 3 is football, basketball, beta club, all the different clubs. I don't think we've given these guys any good indication of what we want them to do. So I don't know how well that's going to go. Y'all were asking about what they're going to go investigate for us. My thought in the committee meeting was go investigate for us the registration fees that basically kids have to pay to come to school, because I think that's a major problem. So we're kind of all over the place here, so I don't know what they're going to go investigate, really. I guess I'm kind of asking.
I agree with you. That's what I thought.
Any further?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, Mr. Guidry?
Mr. Brookhouse, I just have a question. On the fees, I could have sworn Mr. Foster said that we don't mandate any kid. If they don't pay, there's no penalty. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. us to check on it, that there are schools out there that are imposing, like, not letting them do field trips and stuff because of the fees. So if we could check on that, I would appreciate that, because I could have sworn that was said, that if someone don't pay a fee, that we do not have a penalty against them.
There are some things that deal with extracurriculars, right, where there are penalties. But as far as coming to school, no child will not come to school because they haven't paid a school registration.
So we do have policy to where, like, if they don't pay the $2 math fee or the $3 locker fee,
Well,
we would.
In fact, like on school lunches, you guys even approved that
I
the principal
know.
could exercise on extracurriculars.
Okay, I know the lunch thing, and just to state, I didn't vote for that in the first place because I didn't agree with that. But I'm talking about not the lunch thing. I understand we have policy for that, but is there a policy that if a kid doesn't pay his $3 locker fee or something like that, can they be kept from going on a field trip?
It has happened, yes.
It has happened. Okay. I think that is absurd.
All right, Mr. Gibbons, thank you. Mr. Delafonte.
So I just want to piggyback on Mr. Gibbons real quick. So, Ms. Brookhouse, our policy is what? Because from what I understand, I know we have it for lunch. If kids are not paying, we've given the principal authority.
Ms. Staples, I don't want to quote our policy
Okay.
without having it in front of me.
Okay.
Especially since it's going to get contentious
Right.
here, it appears.
Right.
I want to read the policy to you, and I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, but I know we've in the past that for book fees or anything that they've withheld students from doing activities. And I know we have a big issue right now with registration fees for not being able to go to homecoming dance and other things. So
Yes.
we will need some clarity on that because I could have swore we had that and the principals have been enforcing that.
Yeah.
Over the course of as long as I've been on that, they've withheld kids from activities.
Years and years and years and
Right.
years.
We've been doing that.
What we don't do is a child doesn't not come to school because they didn't pay the registration.
Right. In line with the issue of fees, I know every school pretty much does what they want in terms of supplies. I mean, some schools require you to bring more. Some schools even have where you can pay a fee and order the supplies all at one time. And I would like to see us be able to get more of our schools doing the same thing. I mean, of course, we can get a better deal if we do it all at one, whether this board decides that, we're going to pay for all the supplies for the kids. I know Ms. Carver, Eric's mother, has been doing a lot in terms of paying supplies. Later on we come back where they need a binder or they need 2 binders, they need some pens. So perhaps we can come up and find a way that partner up with other parishes and get supplies like we do some of our food supplies.
Well, understand, a lot of the registration fees go toward making copies at schools for worksheets. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of copies that are made in the school office for things that go on in the school. The schools pay for their own copiers.
Right.
We provide the paper, but they pay for the copiers. So it goes deeper. If we want to stop doing that, we're going to have to figure out how we're going to pay for the copiers because, which I'm going to tell you, is a significant amount of money.
We're leasing though, correct? All schools are
Yeah,
leasing.
all schools are on a 3-year lease now.
Okay.
Those that have expired over the last 4 years or 5 years have gone with a 3-year lease on it.
And do we pretty much regulate as to one leaser?
No.
So they're free to lease whoever.
Yeah, we
So we don't know.
We
if
use
it-
every vendor has state contracts, so they.
That's something we really need to talk about.
It is we've attempted to even get a formal list of all of the copiers in our district, and we've been fairly successful. But even that is a massive undertaking. Lots of copiers, lots of money. So a lot of those registration fees go toward that. I'll tell you.
Okay, so what we're voting on is to accept the motion to ask the staff to look at ideas on how to consolidate office/administrative fees.
No, point of order. That was not the motion. The motion was to accept Mr. Foster's report. If somebody wants to make a motion, they're going to have to make one. Correct?
Well, according to the recommendation,
Okay, all right.
If you want to do something else, you need to amend the committee's recommendation.
well, if I may,
Yes, sir.
according to the minutes from the meeting, there's, and I'll just read here, There was much discussion about the necessity of several office administrative fees, and staff was asked to look at ideas how to consolidate them. So is that that's, from my understanding, that's what we're doing?
Yeah, and that's what we're gonna do. Yes.
Okay, so that's what we're, well, then what are we voting? That's what we're voting to accept it. Well, either way, we can pull it out and then add it back in if we want, whatever the pleasure of the board. So first thing what we'll do is we'll go ahead and just accept the report from Mr. Foster as the recommendation from the committee, then we'll come back and we'll piggyback on it.
Okay, any other discussion on accepting the report? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Unanimous.
Okay, all right. So I'll move with the second part of this was to have staff asked to look at ideas of how to consolidate the fees and for the administrative fees.
That's like an motion.
Okay. So,
Is that a motion?
Did you make that a motion?
yeah, that came as from the committee, so we're gonna say it doesn't need a second coming from committee.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. You had your hand up?
Yeah, so I have no problem discussing it as a separate motion. I just want to make sure it's clear so they know what we're telling them to do. So now they have a motion that's telling them directly to do something. I have no problem with that. I just want to make it clear that we're now voting on a motion to instruct these guys to do something specific.
All right. Discussion?
It's normal for this board to refer things to staff without motions. That was done in the committee. If you want to do it again, that's okay, but it's already been done.